Mr. Andrade, I require your signature on these documents to initiate the project for the new wing of the hospital, the secretary stated, as Mateo gazed thoughtfully at the view from his office on the 20th floor. Please place them on my desk, I'll take a look shortly, he replied absent-mindedly, straightening his tie before grabbing his briefcase. The time was 9:30, and I was due for a significant meeting at San Felipe Hospital. As he cruised in his BMW, Mateo reflected on the project numbers in his mind. A staggering investment of $15 million is set to transform the most esteemed private medical center in Lima through an ambitious renovation project. This endeavor has the potential to elevate your construction business to new heights. Upon his arrival at the hospital, Carmen, his assistant, awaited him at the entrance. The investors await in the meeting room on the 3rd floor, he conveyed as they strolled. However, Dr. Japanki requested that I initially visit the areas designated for the construction of the new wing. Can we not postpone this? Mateo inquired with a hint of frustration. He emphasized the significance of visualizing the entire project prior to the presentation. Mateo let out a weary sigh. All right, let's proceed. They made their way through a series of corridors until they arrived at the maternity wing. The scent of disinfectant churned in his gut, resurrecting memories he wished to keep hidden. In that moment, he caught sight of her. Elena stood beside the crib, cradling the infant in her arms. With her brown hair pulled back in a ponytail, clad in a nurse's uniform, she offered a gentle smile as she gazed at the newborn. The image struck him with the force of a gut-wrenching blow. He found himself unable to move. Elena lifted her gaze, and their eyes locked in a moment of connection. Time appeared to stand still. Mateo, she murmured, instinctively drawing the baby closer to her heart. That? What brings you here? He succeeded in expressing himself, his voice scarcely rising above a whisper. I work here, in the neonatal area. The silence that ensued was palpable. Carmen, sensing the unease, cleared her throat. Sir. Andrade, the investors. Just a moment, Mateo interrupted, his gaze fixed on Elena and the baby. Is it yours? The question lingered, thick and tense, as Elena shook her head. No, Mateo, he is an abandoned baby. They found him this morning at the door of the hospital. Mateo felt the air return to his lungs, yet the lump in his throat remained, heavy and unyielding. 2 years of separation vanished in a heartbeat. Mr. Andrade, Carmen insisted, we really need. I'm coming, Cortante replied, casting a final glance at Elena, who had shifted her focus to the baby. We need to talk, he said before turning away. There's nothing to discuss, Mateo, she replied, her gaze fixed elsewhere. We already covered everything 2 years ago. Mateo clenched his fists and trailed after Carmen to the meeting room, leaving Elena and the baby behind, yet carrying the burden of unanswered questions and dreams that would remain unfulfilled. The meeting with the investors faded into a haze in Mateo's mind, as his thoughts lingered in the maternity hallway. The presentation was excellent, Carmen remarked as they exited the meeting room. Are you all right? I need a moment, Mateo replied, loosening his tie. Where is the restroom? He doused his face with cold water in the bathroom. The reflection revealed a transformed individual, starkly contrasting the self-assured entrepreneur he once was. After drying his face, he stepped out with a resolute purpose to seek out Elena. He discovered her in the nurse's break room, solitary, engrossed in completing paperwork. Can we talk? He inquired from the doorway. Elena glanced up. I'm busy, Mateo. Just 5 minutes, Elena, please. She placed the pen on the table. What do you want to discuss? Your sudden absence after the divorce, or how you ignored my calls when I reached out about the pending papers. I know, I was a coward, Mateo confessed, sitting across from her. But seeing you today, with that baby. Don't do this, Elena interrupted him. Don't use the baby as an excuse. His name is Lucas, by the way. I'm simply fulfilling my responsibilities. How long have you been in this position? It's been a year now. Once I sold the apartment you left behind, I made the choice to switch hospitals. I sought a fresh start. The stillness enveloped them, thick with reminiscences. Do you recall the last time we found ourselves in a hospital together? Matthew inquired. Please, don't do this, Elena urged, her voice trembling just a bit. That's when we experienced the loss of our baby, he continued. Following our third attempt at fertilization. And after that, you became consumed by your work, Elena added. As if constructing structures could somehow mend the emptiness created by our lost child. Elena, No, Matteo. I have no need for your sympathy or your delayed justifications. 2 years have gone by. I have transformed my existence. I'm content just as I am. A young nurse stepped through the doorway. Elena, Lucas is in tears. He refuses to take the bottle. Elena rose to her feet without hesitation. I must take my leave. Matteo insisted, can we meet later? There's a new project at the hospital. We're going to coincide. This is a workplace, Matteo. Let's maintain a professional atmosphere. Elena paused at the door. And please refrain from bringing up the past again. It doesn't sting as much if we leave it be. Matteo observed her as she strolled down the corridor, her white uniform fading into the sea of hospital personnel. He sat there, reflecting on how two individuals who once shared everything could now hardly manage a polite exchange. His phone vibrated. It was Carmen. The revised plans await your scrutiny. Matteo set the phone down, choosing silence. The plans could hold off for now. I found myself in a moment of reflection. I had to grasp why witnessing Elena with that infant stirred emotions I believed were long buried beneath layers of concrete and years of relentless dedication. The baby was discovered in a cardboard box, swaddled in an old blanket, Marita Yupanqui detailed to Matteo in her office. It's quite tragic, isn't it? Fortunately, Elena was there that morning. Matteo approached the administrator, ostensibly to talk about the project details, but the discussion naturally shifted to the forsaken infant. So, what will become of him? He inquired, pretending to be uninterested. At present, he remains in the hospital's temporary care. Elena is personally attending to him as social services works through the case. Elena has always possessed a unique ability with children, Matteo whispered. I understand. This past year, I have witnessed her professional growth. She is among our finest nurses. Matteo squirmed in his seat, a sense of unease washing over him. She shared with him about. Can you tell me more about yourself? Indeed, he shared something with me. However, there's no need for concern, personal narratives are not the focus in this context. The essential aspect is the craft. A sudden knock on the door broke the flow of their discussion. It was Elena. Doctor Yupanqui, I require your signature to, he paused upon noticing Matteo. Excuse me, I'll return shortly. Enter, Elena, Marita commanded. Mr. Andrade had already begun his departure. How is Lucas? He's doing better. He's now taking the bottle like a champ. His vital signs are stable. Matteo rose, but before departing, he inquired. Why Lucas? For the first time that day, Elena met his gaze directly. Because it signifies the one who carries the light. And that is what he has brought to the neonatal unit, light. Actually, Marita interjected. It's best left unnamed. Every abandoned baby deserves a name, Elena interjected with conviction. I refuse to label him as the infant from case 47, or the forsaken child from door 3. Matteo recalled conversations about baby names from years past, during the time they were envisioning their family. Elena had always felt a deep enthusiasm for that subject. I require the project documents on my desk first thing tomorrow, Matteo stated, shifting the topic with a suddenness. With permission. He exited the office, acutely aware of Elena's eyes following him. He paused in the hallway, gazing at the window of the neonatal unit. Lucas rested serenely in his crib, unaware of the turmoil swirling in the world beyond. A caregiver moved closer to the crib to examine the monitors. "Are you acquainted?" he inquired upon spotting Matteo. "No," he said, turning on his heel and striding away. "I was just passing by." As he made his way to the exit, his thoughts kept drifting back to that cardboard box and the worn blanket within. What sort of despair could drive a person to forsake their own offspring? Perhaps, he mused, there existed various forms of abandonment, some more apparent than the rest. "I've already gone over the plans for La Nueva," Matteo remarked, seated in his office that evening. "However, there is an aspect that eludes my comprehension." "What?" Carmen inquired, readying herself to jot down notes. "Why didn't anyone mention that Elena was working there?" Carmen shut her notebook. "I didn't believe it was pertinent to the project, sir." "Did you not consider it pertinent that my ex-wife is employed at the hospital where we plan to construct?" "With all due respect, Mr. Andrade, you rarely discuss your personal life, and the information we received pertained to the administrative staff, not the nursing staff." Matteo massaged his temples. The day's images continued to whirl in his mind. "Should we look for another hospital for the project?" Carmen proposed. "No," he replied curtly. "This project holds significant importance." His cell phone buzzed. A message arrived from Marita. "We should go over some specifics regarding the neonatal area. Shall we meet up tomorrow?" "Please arrange a meeting with Dr. Yupanqui for tomorrow," he instructed Carmen. "At what hour?" "At any moment, with the exception of the nurse's shift change." Carmen gazed at him with a deep sense of empathy. "The shift change is at 3. "So, that means at 11, Matteo replied as he stood up. "I'm heading home." In the parking lot, his phone buzzed once more. This time, it was his mother. "What did you think of the meeting at the hospital?" she inquired. "Good," he responded tersely. "Have you noticed her?" Matteo paused just before entering the car. "How do you know?" "Son, Lima is a small place, and I still keep in touch with a few folks at the hospital." "Mom, I really don't want to discuss this." "You never want to discuss anything, Matteo. Just like your father. You know. Sometimes silence can be more damaging than words." "I need to drive, Mom. Let's discuss this later." As he made his way home, he walked by the building that once held memories of his life with Elena. The illumination in the 7th-floor apartment was aglow. Fresh faces, fresh beginnings, he remembered the final evening they shared in that place 2 years prior. The stacked boxes, the weighty stillness, the unspoken thoughts. "We can't continue like this," Elena had remarked that evening. "Is this how it is? Existing as if we are strangers, resting in different rooms, steering clear of one another." "I'm swamped with work, Elena. The construction firm, the projects, the meetings. There's always something that takes precedence over us." Matteo snapped back to reality, shaking his head. The traffic light was green. A horn blared from behind him. He sped away, distancing himself from the building and the memories it held. Yet, the unease in my gut lingered, reminiscent of 2 years prior. The model of the new project dominated the meeting room's focal point. Matteo highlighted the various areas as he elaborated. "The new wing will consist of 5 floors. The first will be dedicated solely to neonates and pediatric intensive care." "What is the reason for beginning with newborns?" asked one of the investors. "Because it is where it is needed most," Marita replied before Matteo. "Our current unit is overwhelmed." At that moment, Elena walked in, carrying some documents. He lingered by the door, waiting. The design features 25 new incubators, Matteo went on, deliberately avoiding her gaze, and a dedicated area for abandoned babies. The investors shared knowing looks. Abandoned babies? One questioned, wouldn't it be more advantageous to concentrate on patients who are able to pay? Elena advanced a step. Excuse me, but... Elena, Marita cautioned. No, doctor, they must grasp something important. Elena stepped closer to the table. Those infants did not select their circumstances. As a healthcare institution, we bear a social obligation. Miss, one of the investors started. Nurse Solorzano, she clarified. I have witnessed infants perish due to our lack of space and resources. Does that strike you as a viable business model? Elena, please, Matteo interjected. This is a private meeting. Of course, private, just like every one of your significant gatherings, isn't it? Silence enveloped the room. Marita cleared her throat. Perhaps a break would be wise, he proposed. The investors departed, leaving Matteo and Elena in solitude with Marita. I apologize, Elena whispered. I got carried away. Your arguments hold weight, Matteo remarked, catching her off guard. In truth, I had already factored that into the budget. The abandoned babies wing will be financed by a special fund. It will not depend on investors. Elena looked at him, her expression one of confusion. Why? She asked. Because it's the right thing to do, he replied, gathering his papers. And because someone once showed me that everyone deserves a chance. With that, he exited the room, leaving Elena in stunned silence. Marita offered a faint smile. People evolve, Elena, the doctor remarked. At times, all they require is a little time. Or a forsaken infant, Elena murmured, glancing at the blueprints spread out on the table. The hospital cafeteria was nearly deserted. Matteo swirled his coffee absent-mindedly, not taking a sip, while Elena sat across from him, cradling her cup in her hands. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me, he said. I'm not doing it for you, Elena replied. I do it for the project. I need confirmation on whether you will indeed proceed with what you mentioned regarding the abandoned baby area. I have all the necessary documentation. I can present the papers to you. Why, Matteo? Why now? Is there a need for justification to perform a good deed? You always seem to have a rationale. There is always an ulterior motive. Matteo set the spoon down on the table. Encountering Lucas sparked a reflection within me. Let's not involve Lucas in this matter. It's simply the reality, Elena. Observe how you nurture him, as if, how I would have nurtured our child. That's what you were about to express. The air grew heavy with unspoken words. When I proposed the idea of adoption, Elena pressed on, you insisted it wasn't equivalent, that you longed for your own lineage, your own surname. He was an idiot. Was? I'm still an idiot, but at least now I'm aware of it. Elena took a sip of her coffee. Do you realize what the most painful part is? It's that we weren't even in conflict, just. You chose to walk away. Dinners meant for us became meetings with clients. Our evenings together transformed into late nights at the office. Work was just a cover, Matteo confessed. I was scared. Scared of what? Of not measuring up, of disappointing you like I did before. Please, don't say it. I apologize. It no longer holds any significance, Elena declared, rising to her feet. I must return. Lucas requires his medication. Elena, if you truly wish to make a positive impact, honor your commitment to the project. Those little ones deserve a proper home. I assure you, I will. Don't make any commitments to me, make them to those who truly matter. Elena departed, leaving Matteo solitary with his chilled coffee and his reflections. From the cafeteria window, I caught a glimpse of the site designated for the construction of the new wing. Structures of concrete and glass that, he wished, might start to mend some of what he had shattered. "Your mother has arrived," Carmen declared through the intercom. Mateo hardly had a moment to glance up before Rosa Urrutia stepped into his office, exuding elegance in her perfectly tailored suit. "What brings you here today?" Matthew inquired. "Must a mother have justifications to visit her child?" "You always have your justifications, Mom." Rosa positioned herself before the desk. "Marita shared details with me regarding the hospital project." "When did you start having conversations with Marita?" "From the very beginning. It was she who attended to me when." "When what?" Rosa let out a heavy sigh. "When we brought you into our family, son." Mateo sensed the atmosphere around him shift, as if the very air was being drawn away. "What is that?" At the age of 25, he found himself at a pivotal moment in life. "I was unable to have children. Your father and I explored every option, much like you and Elena have done. This is impossible." Marita was a young resident at that time. She assisted us throughout the process. Mateo rose suddenly. "Why are you bringing this up now? It's essential for you to be informed. I noticed the way you regarded Elena with disdain when she brought up the idea of adoption. That was different." "Why?" "Because I am not your actual mother." "No. You are my mother." "Precisely." Rosa beamed. "Just as you might have been the true father of any child they took in." Mateo sank into his chair. "Is Dad aware?" "Your father was the one who pushed for the adoption. He expressed that love creates families, not just genetics." "Why was I never informed?" "Initially, due to your diminutive size. In retrospect, it appears that the timing was never quite aligned." Mateo recalled every instance he had proudly spoken of the Andrade lineage, the family blood, and the significance of the surname. "Elena," he whispered softly. Rosa remarked, "Elena grasped this more thoroughly than you did. She observes daily that love transcends biology." "I must leave," Mateo replied, rising to his feet. "I require some time to reflect." "Son," Rosa called out to him before he departed, "don't confuse blood with love. From the very first moment our eyes met, you captured the hearts of both your father and me. Just as one might have cherished." "Mom, I really need some time to myself." He exited the office and meandered through the city streets without a clear destination. He found himself, not particularly shocked, in the hospital parking lot. From that vantage point, he could glimpse the window of the neonatal unit, where he was certain Elena would be tending to Lucas. The sound of his phone ringing pierced the silence. A message arrived from Marita. "I heard it from your mother. Whenever you're ready to chat, I'm here for you." Mateo discovered Marita in her office, poring over files even though it was well past closing time. "How many others were aware?" he inquired from the threshold. "It's just me and Dr. Ramirez, who has already passed away," Marita replied, her gaze fixed elsewhere. "Sit down." "Elena never." "No, I never revealed that to her. That wasn't mine." Mateo sank into the chair. "All this time, you were a lovely little one," Marita beamed. Rosa was overwhelmed with tears as she held you close. "And the lady who brought me into this world. He was quite youthful. I wished for you to experience a life filled with more opportunities, much like Lucas's mother did." Each narrative unfolds in its own unique way, Mateo. Indeed, love can often entail the act of releasing. Down the hall, Elena's voice floated gently, a soft melody weaving through the air. He was completing his evening circuit. "Did you know she's looking to adopt Lucas?" Marita inquired. Mateo gazed at her in astonishment. "That? It's still underway. The social worker is scheduled to come next week for the final evaluation. But is it really possible? I mean, she's on her own and..." The world is different now, Matteo. And Elena has so much to offer. A steady job, her own place, and outstanding references. Do you have your own place? Yes, the apartment you left behind. He has transformed it entirely. The guest room has been converted into a children's room. Matteo recalled that room. They had adorned it together, years back, envisioning the child that never arrived. She was always prepared, he whispered. And not you, Marita finished. But that doesn't mean you're a bad person. Just someone who needed time to grasp certain things. What do you mean? Families can take on many forms. Love isn't confined to genetic ties. Sometimes, the most wonderful parents are those who consciously decide to embrace the role, rather than those who find themselves in it by chance. Elena strolled by the office, softly swaying Lucas. He didn't notice them. He seems content, Matteo remarked. It is, Marita replied. He found his way. The question is, have you discovered yours? Matteo rose to his feet. Thank you, Marita. But why? For safeguarding the secret. For looking after Elena. For all that you've done. Just go home, Matteo. It's been a long day. In the parking lot, Matteo cast a final glance at the illuminated window where Elena tended to Lucas. He pondered if this was the same feeling his father had experienced 35 years prior, gazing through another hospital window, yearning to bring home a child who wasn't of his blood, yet would enrich his life with love. We Andradas always build for the future, echoed his father's voice in the corporate video. Matteo observed him from his computer in the dimly lit office. Sir, Carmen interjected from the doorway. The contractors are poised to commence demolition at the hospital, pending your signature. Have you cleared the area yet? Indeed. The neonatal unit has been relocated to the third floor for the time being. Matteo shut the laptop with a decisive click. Elena, has Nurse Solorzano confirmed the transfer? Indeed, he was the mastermind behind the entire organization. He claims that as long as the infants are secure, everything else is merely a matter of organization. Just like her, Matteo whispered. Pardon? No response. Bring the documents. While signing, he recalled the discussion with his mother. The Andradas, a family legacy, constructed upon a truth concealed for decades. His phone vibrated. A message arrived from Elena. It's time to discuss the revised plans. I'm heading to the hospital, he declared, rising to his feet. However, the board of directors has decided to reschedule everything at the hospital. He discovered Elena in the makeshift unit, inspecting the amenities. The electrical connections are insufficient, she stated, bypassing any pleasantries. I understand. It's just for now. A newborn in an incubator can't grasp the chaos, Matteo. That's the reason I brought this. He unfurled a set of blueprints. Urgent adjustments. We can bolster the electrical system today. Elena examined the plans. When? Yesterday evening. Rest eluded me. Why? Matteo paused briefly. Were you aware that I'm adopted? Elena gazed upward, her expression one of astonishment. That? I discovered it just yesterday. My mother. Marita was present when? Matteo. Throughout all this time, Elena. All those times I spoke of family lineage, of the significance of Andrade blood. Stop, Elena interjected gently. Please, don't go down this path. What path? Trying to use this as a means to, I don't know, make amends or something. It's not that simple. What is it, then? Matteo gazed out the window, observing the peaceful sight of several infants nestled in their cribs, lost in slumber. It is the realization, at last, that I was mistaken. You were correct. That a family. Matthew. Kindly. It has been 2 years. I have already come to a conclusion regarding Lucas. I understand. And I'm genuinely pleased for you. For the two of us. Elena fixed her gaze on him, probing for any hint of deceit in his statements. I simply wish to make the correct choice, he remarked. For these little ones, for the medical staff, for all the things I neglected in the past. That's right, Elena replied after a pause. Let's begin with the electrical connections. Tomorrow marks the start of the demolitions, Matteo declared during the staff meeting. The process will take 3 weeks. The medical team absorbed every word as he gestured towards the plans displayed on the wall. What occurs if they discover structural issues? Elena inquired from the rear of the room. We have backup strategies in place, Matteo replied. We will prioritize patient safety above all else. Marita observed the interaction with keen curiosity. The dynamic between them had shifted. He had evolved into a figure of greater professionalism and maturity. Following the meeting, Matteo found himself gathering his documents. The social worker is coming today, Marita remarked as she drew near. I understand. How do you know? Elena asked, her nerves more palpable than ever. He has dedicated the last 3 evenings to meticulously organizing documents. You are quite familiar with her. I knew her, Matteo clarified. Now it feels changed. Changed for the better or changed for the worse? Simply, distinct. A sudden knock on the door broke the flow of their conversation. Carmen was the one. Mr. Andrade, a discovery was made during the initial inspection. What is it? You should come and take a look. In the demolition zone, a cluster of workers gathered around an uncovered wall. It's part of the original structure, the foreman elaborated. This place has a history that dates back over a century to when it was a convent. Will this impact the construction plans? Matteo inquired. It will be necessary to alter the complete design to maintain its integrity. What would be the delay for the project? 2 months. At least. Matteo gazed at the time-worn wall. The bare bricks whispered tales of dedication and craftsmanship that spanned across generations. Proceed, he commanded. Revise the plans. This wall endures. However, sir, the extra expense. There are certain things that deserve to be kept, Matteo interjected. This hospital carries a rich legacy. Let's respect it. Elena observed the unfolding scene from the hallway. Their eyes locked for a brief moment, connecting with Matteo's. She gave a slight nod before pivoting and making her way back to the neonatal unit, where the social worker awaited her for the concluding interview. Lucas has a fever, Elena declared, leaning over the incubator. 39 degrees. As darkness enveloped the hospital, the clamor of construction machines faded into silence. The antibiotics should be taking effect, Dr. Suarez said, his eyes scanning the file. Something's not right, Elena pressed, her concern palpable. His breathing is rapid. At that instant, the monitors erupted with alarms. He's convulsing, Elena shouted. A flurry of chaos erupted around him. Medical staff dashed about, commands echoed through the air, and alarms blared sharply. Matteo, engrossed in assessing the developments on the lower floor, caught the urgent announcement of a blue code over the speakers. Neonate unit, code blue. Instinct took over as he sprinted up the stairs. Upon arrival, he caught sight of Elena through the glass, diligently administering compressions to Lucas's fragile chest. Come on, little one, she whispered softly. Don't give up. The minutes stretched on endlessly. At last, the heart monitor displayed a steady rhythm. Elena exited the room, weariness weighing on her, and was taken aback to find Matteo there. What are you doing here? I heard the code, he replied. He's stable, Elena sighed. For now, he sank into a chair, trembling slightly. Matteo shrugged off his jacket and draped it over his shoulders. The social worker, Elena started. He will approve, Matteo cut in. I would be foolish not to. How can you be so certain? Why did I spot you in there? Because anyone who witnesses you with him. Matthew, no, allow me to complete my thought. You are the most wonderful mother Lucas could ever have. And I express this as one who has encountered remarkable adoptive mothers. Elena gazed at him, taken aback by the openness in his tone. The flowers, she exclaimed unexpectedly. What is that? The blossoms welcoming new lives. These are the very ones I used to have at home. Golden blooms reaching for the sun. Ah, that. Matteo scratched the back of his neck, feeling a wave of discomfort wash over him. The landscaper inquired about which flowers to choose, and just then. Thank you, Elena interjected. To remember. There are countless memories that linger, Elena. The silence that ensued felt distinct from those before it. It was less charged, more contemplative. I need to return to Lucas, Elena finally stated, removing her jacket. Of course, and Elena? Yes, everything will be all right. They both will be. Elena nodded and went back to the unit. Matteo lingered for a moment, observing through the glass as she tenderly adjusted the blankets around the baby. The sunflowers at the entrance cast their reflection in the window. Silent witnesses to a new kind of connection between two individuals who once shared everything. The adoption has been approved, Marita declared, stepping into Matteo's temporary office at the hospital. Elena is already aware. This afternoon, they will provide the official announcement. Indeed, Lucas will be recognized as his son in a legal sense. Matteo has set aside the plans he was examining. Well, they deserve it. You know. Elena requested that the waiting area be changed in the new plans. Why? She wants a space where parents can be near their children without disrupting the medical work. He claims that the waiting is the most challenging aspect. I've already made some changes, Matteo replied. I included a section with recliners and a compact kitchen. When will it happen? 7 days prior. It was clear that it was necessary. Marita smiled. Have you transformed, Matteo? No, I simply perceive things from a different perspective. A sudden knock on the door broke the flow of the conversation. It was Elena. May I interject? He inquired. Not at all, Marita replied, rising to her feet. Actually, I was just about to head out. Once they found themselves in solitude, Elena made her way to the desk. The social worker handed me the final papers, he remarked, presenting a folder. Well done. I appreciate it. Elena paused briefly. I have a question for you. What thing? Why the wall? The old wall? Yes, I understand that keeping it intact is holding up the whole project. Matteo stood up and approached the window. From that vantage point, they observed the partially demolished edifice, its century-old wall defiantly intact. When I was a child. Started. My father brought me to this place. He pointed out this hospital and said, son, we don't merely construct buildings, we create spaces where life unfolds. I didn't grasp his meaning until now. And what was he conveying? That certain things hold greater value than money or time, that there are narratives that merit preservation. Elena moved closer to the window. Lucas is doing better now, she remarked. The fever hasn't come back. I understand. I peruse the reports daily. But why? What's the significance? Because regardless of our circumstances, even if things change, I genuinely care about what is important to you. Elena gazed at him intently. The wall, he finally remarked, brings to mind our relationship. In what way? As something ancient, enduring through the transformations. Distinct, yet resilient. Elena. No, it's fine. It's for the best. Different, yet unbroken. He shifted his gaze from the window and made his way to the door. "The adoption ceremony is on Friday," he said before departing. "If you wish to attend, I'll be there," Matteo replied. Elena nodded and exited, the lingering resonance of an invitation that, months prior, would have seemed unimaginable. The social services office was permeated with the scent of aged paper and lukewarm coffee. Elena sat in silence as Mrs. Ramirez, the social worker, meticulously examined the documents once more. "Everything appears to be in order," she finally declared. "We just need one final signature here." Elena grasped the pen with a quivering hand. This was the moment he had anticipated. "Is this really what you want?" Mrs. Ramirez inquired. "Navigating life as a single mother is quite the challenge. I've never felt more certain about anything in my life." "There is one more thing," the social worker added. "We received an additional letter of recommendation." "Whose?" "From Mr. Matteo Andrade. He claims you are the most capable individual he knows to embrace motherhood." Elena remained motionless, the pen hovering above the page. "No, I was unaware. It wasn't necessary for me to know. However, it had a significant impact on the final decision. It is rare for someone of his stature to dedicate time to compose something like this." Elena signed the document, fighting back tears. "Lucas Solorzano," Mrs. Ramirez read aloud. "That's a lovely name." "It belonged to my grandfather," Elena replied. "He was a man who understood that family goes beyond just blood ties." Back at the hospital, he spotted Matteo overseeing the tasks at hand. "Why did you do it?" he inquired straightforwardly. "Do what?" came the response. "The recommendation letter." Matteo set aside the plans he had been examining. "Because it was the right choice. Because you deserve happiness. Your assistance wasn't necessary. I'm aware. My actions weren't intended to assist you. I did it because it's the truth." They exchanged glances, the sounds of construction filling the air around them. Friday, Elena finally broke the silence. "The ceremony is at 11. I know, I already requested the day off." Elena nodded and turned around, pausing just before she left. "Matthew?" "Yes, thanks." The word lingered in the air, heavy with significance, before Elena vanished down the corridor toward the neonatal unit, where Lucas awaited her. Matteo gazed at the void she left behind, reflecting on the countless letters she never penned, the truths she kept hidden, and how, at times, love is about releasing and offering support from a distance. The evening prior to the adoption ceremony, Matteo found himself restless. Through his window, he observed the lights of Lima twinkling like scattered stars. Suddenly, his phone rang. It was Carmen. "Sir, there's an emergency at the hospital." "What happened?" "A water leak has caused damage to part of the electrical system in the temporary neonatal area." Matteo was already slipping on his jacket. "I'm heading there." Upon his arrival at the hospital, he discovered Elena in the midst of evacuating the infants. "The emergency generator is failing," she said, maneuvering an incubator with urgency. "Lucas and 2 other babies require a steady supply of energy." "Where are they being taken?" "To the south wing, but it is at capacity. There are insufficient connections." Matteo took in the scene around him. "My temporary office," he remarked unexpectedly, "is equipped with its own generator for the construction computers." "Are you certain?" "Absolutely, let's go." They collaborated for several hours, shifting equipment, linking cables, ensuring each infant was secure. By 3 in the morning, everything was finally in order. Elena settled into a chair beside Lucas's incubator. "In just a few hours, he will officially be my son," he whispered. "He's your son," Matteo replied. "The document merely legitimizes it. Do you recall those nights we spent awake like this?" Elena inquired, "Are we planning for the future, discussing the possibility of children?" "No, it's fine. Things have changed. Everything has changed. Lucas shifted within his incubator, emitting gentle sounds. He resembles you, Matteo remarked. That? When he sleeps. He makes the same gestures as you. Elena smiled. Babies absorb knowledge from their caregivers. Just as I did from my parents, Matteo remarked. From my guardians. They stayed quiet, observing Lucas as he slumbered. The monitors glowed gently, their lights dancing like fireflies in the night. It's time for you to take a break, Matteo finally suggested. Tomorrow holds great significance. Are you going to remain by his side? Indeed, proceed with tranquility. Elena rose from her seat and made her way to the door. Before departing, he glanced back. At times, he murmured gently, events may not unfold as intended, yet that doesn't imply they are unfavorable. Matteo nodded as Elena slipped away into the hospital night, leaving him with Lucas and the realization that love often reveals itself in unexpected forms, much like moths drawn to a flickering light. The morning broke with clarity and brilliance. The ceremony room in the courthouse buzzed with a crowd of attendees. The medical team, Elena's relatives, a few intimate companions. Feeling anxious? Marita inquired, taking a seat beside Matteo in the back row. What reason do I have to feel anxious? This ceremony doesn't belong to me. Indeed, it marks both a conclusion and a fresh start. Elena stepped inside, cradling Lucas in her embrace. The infant donned a delicate white ensemble that rendered him akin to a miniature celestial being. The social worker assisted her with the final paperwork. Kindly rise, the judge declared. As he absorbed the formal proceedings, Matteo was transported back to another ceremony from years past, when his parents finally revealed the truth of his adoption. At the age of 12, his greatest concern revolved around the possibility of still being able to refer to them as mom and dad. Naturally, his father had replied. Love requires no justification. The judge's voice pulled him from his thoughts, grounding him in the moment. Elena Solorzano Montiel, do you acknowledge and embrace all the legal and ethical responsibilities that accompany your role as Lucas's mother? Yes, I accept, Elena replied, her voice steady and resolute. With the authority granted to me by law, I hereby declare this adoption to be official. Lucas is now, legally and permanently, his son. The room erupted in applause. Elena embraced Lucas, tears of joy streaming down her face. Matteo rose quietly and made his way to the door. In the corridor, he encountered Rosa. Are you departing already? Inquired his mother. My role in this is complete. Your role. What do you believe your role was, my son? Matteo cast his gaze toward the room where Elena was enveloped in hugs and warm congratulations. Discover, he finally replied. Understanding that love can sometimes mean saying goodbye, just like you and Dad showed me. Rosa grasped her hand. And as Lucas' biological mother imparted to Elena, the cycle endures, my son. Matteo nodded and made his way to the elevators, holding on to the vision of Elena and Lucas, a family forged not through blood, but through choices and love. In just 2 weeks, we will celebrate the inauguration of the new pavilion, Matteo declared at the final meeting. I desire absolute perfection. The contractors nodded, examining the most recent adjustments. The ancient wall seamlessly blended with the contemporary design, crafting a striking contrast that narrated the hospital's history. Carmen reported that Elena, the nurse from Solorzano, requested to take a tour first. Why? She wants to ensure everything is perfect for the little ones. You understand how important the details can be. Matteo offered a faint smile. Let's set it for tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the makeshift unit, Elena was getting Lucas ready to return home. The little one had blossomed into a robust and vibrant presence in the past few weeks. Are you prepared for the tour tomorrow? Marita inquired as she stepped into the unit. I need to ensure everything is all right, Elena responded. The links, the airflow, the areas. The design is superb. Matteo ensured that was the case. Elena lifted Lucas, who cooed with delight. I understand. It's changed now. Changed how? More polished, as if we've truly discovered our rhythm together. Marita observed Elena packing Lucas's bag with the precision of someone who had mastered the art of motherhood. No. At times, the most rewarding connections are those that develop over time, remarked the doctor. Are you referring to those that undergo a transformation, such as the hospital? Precisely, just like that old wall that has now been integrated into a contemporary structure. Elena gazed through the window at the nearly finished construction. Tomorrow marks the moment we unveil the complete pavilion, he remarked. Nervous? No, just intrigued to observe how everything has evolved, how we have all transformed. Lucas yawned in his arms, unaware of the discussions swirling around him. Go home, Marita proposed. Tomorrow will be a long day. Elena nodded and departed with Lucas, the sound of their footsteps lingering in the air as they ventured into uncharted halls, rooted in history yet aimed at what lies ahead. The new pavilion glimmered under the morning sun, while early guests began to gather. Hospital authorities, investors, medical staff. It's beautiful, Elena murmured, cradling Lucas as she admired the facade that seamlessly blended ancient stone with contemporary glass. Is everything functioning as you anticipated? Matteo inquired, drawing closer. Improved. The new incubators are exceptional, and the area for parents. Your concept was the foundation, but you enhanced it significantly. Lucas reached out with his small hands toward Matteo, who paused briefly before breaking into a smile. You're capable of carrying it, Elena remarked. It's not nipping just yet. Matteo cradled the baby with care. Lucas swiftly seized his tie. It possesses a certain strength, he remarked. Just like her mother, Marita remarked, stepping into their conversation. The moment has arrived for the speech, Matteo. He returned the baby to Elena and made his way to the podium. All at once, the noise faded away. This structure, he started, is more than mere concrete and glass. This is a commitment to each newborn welcomed here, to every family anticipating in these corridors, to every journey that starts within these confines. He halted, gazing at the time-worn wall. My father instilled in me the belief that we create more than mere structures. We create environments where life unfolds, where families come together, where love flourishes, often in unexpected ways. His gaze locked with Elena's for a brief moment. This pavilion serves as a connection between history and what lies ahead, much like the wall we maintain. It serves as a reminder that certain elements must endure, while others adapt and change into something fresh, something improved. Lucas chuckled, shattering the seriousness of the occasion. Some individuals chuckled, and with a smile, Matteo concluded, that is the genuine sound of hope, the sound through which we construct, the sound of what lies ahead. Applause erupted as he severed the ribbon. Elena made her way over with Lucas. That was quite an impressive speech, he remarked. I took my cues from the finest, he said, glancing at his parents among the audience. Did you know? Lucas will need godparents for his baptism. Matteo gazed at her in astonishment. Consider it, Elena remarked before turning to welcome the guests eager to meet Lucas. Matteo continued to watch them, reflecting on how life often constructs bridges where walls once stood. Are you willing to take on the role of godfather for Lucas? Elena inquired with a sense of formality a week later, while seated in the hospital cafeteria. Are you certain? Matteo replied, swirling his coffee. Absolutely. Your transformation has become evident. And Lucas, you noticed the way he beams at you. The new pavilion buzzed with energy all around them. Healthcare professionals moved in and out. Families anxiously awaited updates. Life flowed onward, as it always does. What will your family say? They are already aware. They are in accord. Marita is set to be the godmother. Matteo beamed. Absolutely, it will be Marita. So, what are your thoughts? I believe it would be a privilege. Elena nodded with a sense of satisfaction. The baptism is scheduled for next month. Matteo replied, yes. I appreciate all that you've done. For the pavilion, for your encouragement, for your insight. Thank you, he said, for showing me that families can take many shapes. They rose from the table. Elena was poised to head back to her shift, while Matteo prepared for a meeting with prospective investors. No. Elena asked before pulling away. At times, I ponder how everything was destined to unfold in this manner. What are you saying? Perhaps we had to lose our way to rediscover who we are, but in a new light. Similar to the ancient wall within the modern structure, Matteo contributed. Precisely. Not everything old requires destruction. Some things simply need to discover their new home. They bid farewell with a smile, each embarking on their own journey through the hospital corridors. The ancient wall stood between them, a silent witness to a tale that had not concluded, but had evolved into something fresh, something unforeseen, something improved. And in the neonatal unit, Lucas slept soundly, unaware of how his presence had begun to mend old scars and forge new connections between the remnants of the past and the hope of what lay ahead. A year later, the neonatal unit was alive with energy. 3 new incubators had arrived that morning, and Elena was overseeing their installation while Lucas played in his portable playpen in Marita's office. Mother! Lucas shouted when he saw Elena enter. Wait a moment, my love, she responded, signing the last documents. Matteo stood at the door, holding a small package wrapped in colorful gift paper. Am I late? He inquired. Just in time, Marita replied with a smile. It was Lucas's first year in the hospital. He crawled eagerly towards his godfather, who lifted him effortlessly, a skill honed over time. I can't believe he's already been with us for a year, Elena remarked, as she set the papers aside. Time flies, Marita remarked, much like the hospital project. Did you know we already have a waiting list for transfers? That's why I'm here, Matteo replied. The board has given the green light for the expansion. We will construct an additional floor. Elena beamed. Will it have the same design? With a few enhancements. The staff's suggestions proved to be quite beneficial. Lucas started to fidget, his anticipation growing as he yearned to unwrap his gift. Go ahead, open it, Matteo urged, positioning him on the desk. Inside was a small toy stethoscope. Lucas's eyes sparkled. Like Mom's, Matteo explained, and, like the one his godfather used to listen to the ancient wall during construction, Marita added with a smile. Elena picked up the stethoscope and carefully positioned it in Lucas's ears. Now you can listen to the heartbeats of the hospital, he remarked, referring to both the old and the new. Lucas chuckled, pressing the device against the desk, the walls, and his mother's heart. Outside, the afternoon sun illuminated the ancient wall, now seamlessly woven into the modern structure, resembling a scar that had melded into history, a testament to the idea that some things must be shattered to emerge more resilient. Within that office, amidst individuals who understood that love manifests in various ways, Lucas remained attentive, uncovering the rhythms of his own narrative, a narrative that was only just unfolding.